We have seen it fade to less and less over the last 2 decades at Florida and really almost everywhere else. The fan access to practices and the media's on-the-record access to players and assistant coaches has trickled to a very low level since about midway through the Steve Spurrier era at Florida. There are places like Southern Cal that open everything up, and there are others that allow almost nothing. Dan Mullen has given us more opportunity than we have had in quite a while, and it will likely get even better once his team gets really accustomed to the way they do things. The truth as I know it, I used to walk back to the locker room interviewing Tim Tebow after practice whenever I wanted. The whole roster was open for interviewing, minus a few true freshmen in some years, and a reporter could get a different storyline from that access than the rest of the guys on the beat, so the fans aren't seeing the same quotes rehashed in several different ways on the internet. To a great extent, Tebow was one of the guys that caused a great change in the media access in Gainesville. And honestly, it was more because of fans and professional autograph seekers than anything that caused the Florida to pretty much shut down the open access as they left the field. Throngs of fans and autograph guys would converge at the gates after practice and keep Tebow with guys making thousands of dollars on his signature. That had to come to an end, and it actually was necessary to a certain extent. But, as reporters, we loved the ability to have a storyline and be able to report on that storyline by asking different players questions. Now we usually meet a player with a throng of reporters surrounding him and being asked questions while we all go our separate ways afterward and write on the same quotes. Think of how many different ideas we could bring to the audience if we could go back to the old ways. I don't know a single person in the media that would back down from that, and the fans are the ones to gain from it. Before Mullen, and for the most part over the last 10 years, practices were closed except about 10 minutes of somewhat live ball action for the media when Jim McElwain was the coach. Mullen changed that a great deal this spring with 3 practices open completely to the public, a few more to the media as well, and then the first spring scrimmage was open to the media in its entirety. That's a great start to what we hope will be more. I believe, as I said, I understood the reasoning for closing things down with the people taking advantage of players like Tebow, but we have been at the point where the same 7 to 10 players show up every single week of the season to talk to the press, regardless of who might have starred that week. I get that some players don't care to talk to the media, but those need to understand that they are going to have to do that when they are getting paid to play. And even then, that is fine, but limiting the number of guys to interview only limits the storylines for the program available to fans. Mullen has already said that true freshmen that see the field of play will be available to the media. Not necessarily any time we want them, but if Emory Jones is the hero of a football game, we will actually be able to interview him instead of waiting until the following season to do so. That will be a big change there. With the open practices in the spring and a year where the offense and defense are new, you have to believe that will lead to even more open practices when the staff isn't worried as much about distractions. I actually understand why a staff might want fewer distractions for their team, but I'm certainly in favor of being able to see for ourselves what transpires at practice. Inevitably, I don't see Mullen opening it up quite like Southern Cal that has about everything open, but he seems comfortable enough to allow a great deal more access than we have had in over a decade. I expect that to happen. Not only am I all for that, all of you should be as well.